Hello everyone and welcome to the Hidden Lives of Writers. I'm Fiona Snyckers and I'm joined by Gail Schimmel.
Hello Fiona.
Hi Gail, how has your writing week been?
Fiona, do I always start like that? So this week, I'm near the end of my rom-com and have made the uncomfortable discovery that I don't know how to end a rom-com. Like I know how to end it, I know how the story has to end because I've known that from the very beginning of starting to write, but I can't quite make them come together. I can't quite bring them onto the same page. And every time I try, they wander off. They're doing that thing we wish our characters would do, where they take control of the narrative and you wander behind them, writing down what they say. They're doing that. It's very fun, but they're wandering off. And I'm like, no, come back. You've got to be in the same chapter if you're going to get together. Come on now. And I have a plan, but I can't quite do it. And hopefully by the time I speak to you next, I will have done it and the book will be finished. What about you? Please tell me you're not wandering around taking dictation from badly behaved characters.
I'm not, but it's also a slightly sad story that I have to tell you. In our last season, I was talking about how I had a new story idea. I had a new idea for a novel and I wanted to track where it went, whether it stayed with me, whether I developed it into something and then eventually started writing it. And I was thinking about it today and I realized I remembered what it was and I remembered the excitement I felt at the idea of writing it. And that excitement is gone. But I think it has just evolved. It's left a germ of an idea.
Okay.
I'm interested in it. It's more like a relationship, mothers and daughters, something in the realm of mothers and daughters.
And you are an expert on that.
Being both a mother and a daughter. And I think I've just got to stay in that neighborhood. I've got to realize that it guided me towards something. And even though that specific idea that I had, which was quite well developed in my mind, is not going to go anywhere, I'm going to live in that neighborhood and see what possibly comes out of that.
Fiona, do you think we have to write the ideas quite soon after we have them for them to keep the magic? Do you think if you'd started that book, you would have carried on with it? You would have got into the world, you would have got caught up and you would have actually finished the book? Or do you think you would have run out of energy for that idea anyway?
Both might have happened, but I do think that I should have seized the day at the time because it was about 5 or 6 months ago now, and that is a very long time to keep an idea alive.
Because this is something I'm thinking a lot about. I have 2 ideas wandering around in my head, and I think the fizz has already gone off it. And I've got to finish this bloody rom-com so that I can start the next idea.
Okay, so we're going to keep our ideas fizzy and fresh and see where they go.
And write them as they come. I think there's this terrible danger of thinking, okay, I'm going to let this like stew for a bit. And like really, we've got to be careful of not overcooking the stew. Getting
right.
Tough meat.
Gail, what have you been reading or watching or listening to?
Fiona, I am obsessed with a capital O with the series Younger.
Oh, Younger. Yes, I watched that a while ago.
Why did you not tell me? Someone at book club recommended it and I started the premise. The premise is there's a woman of 40 who cannot get a job in publishing where she wants to be. And so she pretends to be 26 or 27, one of the two. And she can get away with it. And the actress they've chosen, it works. And then she gets sucked into this whole world where people think that she is young and then she is. And it goes from there. Part of the fascination is the world of publishing.
Yes.
And they make references to real writers. I watched an episode last night where Meg Wolitzer had a guest cameo.
Yes.
We like because then I was like, no, that can't possibly be the real Meg Wolitzer. And I Googled her and indeed it was. And she had a hilarious cameo. So, and they have as characters in the story, real writers, but they'll normally refer to them. Meg Wolitzer was a new development in it. So I love that, although it's a bit unrealistic. The books get written in about 3 weeks.
Yes, and published in 3 weeks after that, yes.
Yeah, so it's a bit unrealistic, but still, that's fun. And it's just, I normally read at least 2 books a week. I have just finished, we are on the 13th of the month as we record this, and I have read 1 book this month. Because
Shocking.
Leave me alone with the TV and I will be watching Younger, and there are 7 seasons of it. I'm in season 6. Obsessed. What about you, Fiona? Anything obsessing you?
I'm obsessed with how much I don't like this book. I realized recently that I'd never read anything by Haruki Murakami, and that it's a big gap in my reading and I need to catch up with it. So I thought I'll start with Norwegian Wood, because people say that's where you should start with him. And it's a kind of coming of age book. And I am hating it so much.
Really?
And I know exactly why. It's because of his female characters. I hate the way he is drawing them. He is drawing so heavily on the trope of what they call the manic pixie dream girl, which is the kind of quirky, crazy, out there girl who maybe has an undiagnosed mental illness, but in a very sexy way, and takes the hero off on these wild adventures that suddenly take her fancy, and she might end up being institutionalized, but it's so cute and so sexy and so appealing. It is a revolting trope, and there's also a revolting scene in the book where it is a sex scene between a 31-year-old and a 13-year-old.
No, I don't remember this.
But it's the 13-year-old's fault. She's the bad one. She seduced the 31-year-old. It's all her fault. Unless, when I read on, I hope that this is somehow going to be flipped and it's going to turn out to be the 31-year-old who's deluded. But so far, it does not appear to be like that. That scene actually made me, I almost vomited. It was so revolting. I think I will go on and read, Kafka on the Shore after this, because I believe that is lovely. And I'm also prepared to believe that he was a pretty young man when he wrote this and maybe improved. But yuck, I hate it.
So I read it 100 years ago, and obviously I have no memory of it. But I do know that whatever I felt about it, I haven't read him again.
Oh, interesting.
So I have no memory. Like, that scene sounds to me like something I should remember, but I have no memory. I wonder if I finished it. And now when I hear his name, I think too intellectual for me, interestingly enough. That's I'm like, no, not enough plot for me.
Okay.
That's my reaction. And the word Kafka makes me think not enough plot for me. That's enough to put me off a book, because I'm not a very intellectual reader.
Well, Kafka on the Shore has a cat on the cover, so that's a point in its favor.
Yeah, balance up Kafka, but there is a cat. Hard to make a decision there.
So a writer who does write very plot-driven books that one really cannot put down and find very memorable is our guest today. Our guest today is Jassy Mackenzie. Jassy is the author of the Jade de Jong series of Joburg-based thrillers, including Random Violence, Worst Case, Stolen Lives, Pale Horses, and several others. She's also the author of Folly and Switch, which were very fun dominatrix books that I remember enjoying very much at the time. Also standalone romances such as Breathless and Drowning. Jassy also writes under several pseudonyms, which we're going to talk to her about. She was nominated for the International Thriller Award, the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, and the Seamus Award, I think all for Random Violence. And we are so happy to have Jassy in the studio today to chat to us. Hi, Jassy, and welcome.
Hi, and I'm so thrilled to be here and so excited to be on your podcast. And well done for keeping it so fresh and so amazing. For how many have you done so far?
This it's over 60 episodes, and this is our 4th year. So
our 7th. Is it season 7?
It's season 7.
Season 7. We're also a bit surprised to find ourselves still at it. Jassy, we're going to ask you, as we ask everyone, first up, how has your writing week been?
My writing week at the moment is very, very busy. I've got a lot of deadlines. I have constant ghostwriting work, and I overloaded myself this month, knowing it was a short month, with my own books. So my writing week has been chaos. And then it didn't help that I also had a blip with one of my animals needing emergency treatment. And I was actually quite surprised by how badly that wiped me out for 2 days, and how impossible it was to focus on my writing when an animal was at the vet and in a serious condition. And I've managed to push through under so many other circumstances, but this one was very, very difficult, and it was a huge challenge.
I think maybe we should clarify the animal was a horse.
The animal is a horse, yes.
Before people are trying to figure out, does she have lions? Does she have tigers?
Hamsters.
The hamster was very ill.
Ed the horse.
Although you probably would be as upset about an ill hamster as you would be about an ill horse if you really loved your hamster.
It depends on when you see the vet bill, because the size of the horse means a bigger vet bill than probably a hamster could manage to incur.
Jassy, tell us your origin story. How did you come to be a writer? How did that unfold for you?
I've always wanted to be a writer, but I think in my early days, I never considered it to be a proper career that I could actually pursue. And so I went off and did other things, some of them very badly. And along the way, I was always drawn back to writing, and I always wanted to write a book. And in fact, I was an expert at getting like about the first 3 chapters done before I ran out of inspiration totally and moved on. And finally, one day when I was, I think, in my early or mid-30s, I finally managed to get a whole book written. And then I decided that I was going to try to get it published. And I was conventionally published for quite a long time. And then my day job work got too busy, and I decided I'm actually just going to now give up writing. I don't even want to think about it. I need to focus on my little company that I have, and I need to put my writing aside. And so I did that for quite a few years until basically writing ambushed me again.
And how did that happen? How did it jump out from behind a bush and ambush you?
It literally did, because what happened was I got this random message through Goodreads, and it was from someone that I didn't know at all, and just said, we've looked at the books you've written, and we were wondering if you would be interested in ghostwriting for us doing thriller series. So I thought, I don't know what this involves, and I don't really have time, but I will find out more about it before I say no, because it's only polite. And so I emailed and said, you can send me more information. And then when I looked at the information, I thought, you know what, this actually sounds like quite a challenge, and I think I would like to try it. And so that's kind of how I got involved with the company that I've now been ghostwriting for a long time, probably 8 years now, since before COVID. And obviously they've sort of changed over the years, and some of the series have changed, and they've been wonderful to work for. But what I really appreciate was in those early days when I was sort of still being trialed, I actually received a lot of coaching. And I would send a few chapters, and I would get advice back from the owner of the company, and that advice was just incredibly useful. And I still have those emails, and I read through them every so often. And I know that all the editors that I work with in my ghostwriting have been briefed in what this company requires from a book and a series. And I think that the aim is to make it a book that it is difficult to put down, and to keep that forward momentum going, and to make sure that every chapter ends on a cliffhanger. Very, 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 very important. So all those things I learned and I took in, and I think have been incredibly helpful to me in my writing since. And the ghostwriting has made me a better writer. And of course, I wish I could go back and write all my earlier books knowing then what I know now. But I've enjoyed the ghostwriting journey a lot.
And we're going to ask you more about it. And there's so much to ask you, it's hard to know what order to ask it in. But I'm going to go from what you've said. Can you, without giving away any trade secrets, tell us, and you've said end on a cliffhanger, what are the other secrets that you've learned in that editing process that you're allowed to share?
Another one is also the beginning of the chapter has to pull you in as quickly as the ending of the previous chapter did. And a cliffhanger is also a difficult thing sometimes to actually get your head around. And I had a lot of problems understanding exactly what it was, because a cliffhanger is not the same as a dramatic moment. A dramatic moment is like very ooh, but still the reader could put the book down. A cliffhanger has to make you want to keep reading on into the next chapter to find out what is going to happen next. So I actually had difficulty with that, and it took me a long while to fully understand what cliffhanger meant. Then also getting into the character's head properly, making sure that their feelings are coming across on the page, that there is enough internal thought in the characters' minds being transferred into the story. And what else? I'm sure I will think of some more as we talk.
That cliffhanger thing I'm very interested in, because I also know this thing about cliffhangers. Would you say that a cliffhanger has got a question in it almost? Is that the difference between a dramatic moment and a cliffhanger, that there's some question that the reader needs answered?
Yes, definitely. A question that needs answered, or a new fact that they've just discovered that they want to pursue, or possibly even just a new action that they're planning on taking.
Okay. And every single chapter, or are you sometimes allowed a mere dramatic moment?
You are not allowed a dramatic moment in these books.
Okay.
The rule is that you have to fight to keep the reader turning the pages and not let them put that book down.
Okay.
And does it translate into sales? Do you have access to that sort of back-end information, how well these books are selling, whether they're building up a loyal readership? Do you know that kind of thing?
Yes, I go and I look them up on Amazon all the time. They're not exclusively on Amazon, though. They are wide books and they're not on Kindle Unlimited. So I obviously don't know what the sales are like in other places. But I do follow the Amazon numbers, and all these thrillers and cozies seem to have the same business model, where what they do is after a while they make the first book perma-free. And then that leads you into the series, because all the series have quite a lot of books. And so that is obviously what they've found currently works the best. So I do go and I look at the sales rank, and I obviously look at the reviews, and I definitely do go and be a detective in how they're doing.
It's a pity you can't see the Kindle Unlimited numbers, because that is a real indicator. Are you paid a ghostwriting fee and that's it, or do you get a share of the royalties?
No, it's a fee and that's it. I think that's normally how ghostwriting does work. Yeah. It's the most usual model, so there's nothing unusual about it.
Jassy, I remember years ago you were approached, and it was a huge honor, you were approached to co-write a book with James Patterson, and that book came out as Private Gold. And I think that was your first experience of kind of having to modify your writing to the specificities of an external organization. I remember you talking about it at the time. I think, has any other South African author been approached in that way? I think you might be the only one.
I think, I don't know of any others. I think I may have been the only one. It was for a series of books called Book Shots, which were shorter than normal. It wasn't a full length James Patterson. I think they did this experimental series of shorter novels, and with that they chose to collaborate from people in other countries and sort of different authors and widen the scope a little bit.
And tell us about that experience. What was it like, being approached, the excitement of it, and then the actual day-to-day of having to produce the work after that?
It was very exciting. I was thrilled to be asked and to work with such a big brand that was sort of so well organized and also had very specific requirements. This is what they wanted the book to be like. And so when I sent the first draft in, I think I sent it, if I remember, in sections. First the first section, and then the middle section, and then the last section. I think there were 3. And they then provided feedback, and if a chapter didn't suit what they wanted the story flow to be, then they would either ask for that chapter to be removed or just tweaked. And I think there was one chapter that I had to tweak. And other than that, it was also very, very interesting to have the structure of such a book to work with, and also to deal with a team whose entire working life is basically creating also very intense, very difficult to put down, exciting books that also have to have that trademark feel to them, even though they're written by different people.
I want to go back a step and understand your publishing journey, because you really are a person who has kind of managed to crack that international thing. When you started with your first series, the J. de Jong books, did you start in a normal South African publishing way? Was that first published by a South African publisher? How did you start, and how did you get to this international facing career that is so hard for a lot of us?
Well, I did start getting published in South Africa simply because I sent the book to basically every single agent with a pulse, and they all said no, every single one. I had this folder of agents who rejected Random Violence, and at that stage, it was so long ago that I even sent out a few letters, and I even got letters back of rejection. I got rejected by everyone there was. So then I actually researched South African publishers, because I hadn't really focused in that direction, and I sent it to I think 2 South African publishers, and immediately I got a different feeling back. And I think that I was just very lucky. At that moment, they were looking for locally written crime, and so then Random Violence got accepted, and then their agent, I kind of automatically got an agent, and then that agent, I think, sold to Soho Press in the States. Okay. And then Random Violence was published in South Africa and the States, and so was the rest of the Jade series. But I wouldn't say that I've done well internationally at all. I think I was very lucky to get published in the States, and Soho Press were just also like Umuzi at the time, Umuzi Random House. Soho Press were just awesome to deal with, and amazing people, and just truly like a publishing family. But, I never felt that I made it big in the way that allowed my writing career to be sustainable or profitable, or to sort of make me enough to live off. And so that was also one of the reasons why in the end I decided, no, I've got to actually just leave this now, because I need to put my time elsewhere.
But in the long run, it opened the doors to the James Patterson situation, and now to the ghostwriting.
Yes.
I don't think if you'd been solely published in South Africa, all of that would have happened.
No, I do think that when the ghostwriters looked up my books, they probably saw they were published in the States. And so I got a very fortunate, lucky break there.
Jassy, there are authors who kind of follow their hearts and just write the things that they love. And there are authors with more of a business-minded model. And I think you have a very good business brain. I'm remembering the time when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and it was just so huge. And you pivoted to writing those sexy dominatrix books, Folly and Switch. And I remember the launch of, I think, Folly. It was so crowded. It was at an Exclusive Books. It was so crowded that I remember just seeing you dimly in the distance over the sea of heads, all watching you read an excerpt from Folly, absolutely enraptured. And it made such a huge splash at the time. Have you always had that kind of business brain and applied it to your writing? or like how important is it for you to write what you love versus write what you think is going to sell?
It's a very good question, because I love writing in general, and I've been fortunate to be able to try a few different genres, and there isn't a genre that I don't enjoy. I don't think I've ever really. It's all been more genres. That's kind of what I've focused on, whether it's crime fiction or cozies or romances. I mean, they're all genres. It's not like literary fiction. Literary fiction is something that I haven't done, and I don't think that I would be able to do that, because that's kind of outside my field of expertise. But with the others, yes, I think I started off writing the crime fiction because I was reading so much of it and because I enjoyed it, and I felt I had something to add in that genre. But when it came to writing folly, I had an idea for it, and I thought this would be a really fun book and a really fun take on what was popular. And it was absolutely so enjoyable to pivot and to do something different. And it is fun to do different things in writing and not to be stuck in one genre. And writing in different genres can sort of give you more tools in your toolbox when it comes to whatever you do attempt. And obviously every genre does have their stipulations and their rules, and you need to sort of follow those and not be too quick to break them, because obviously a book needs to be something that a reader will see it and know what product it is and pick it up and be happy with what's inside instead of disappointed.
I'm going to now get to the thing that we are most curious about. It's around the ghostwriting. So when you started your writing, I read in an interview you were doing a book a year, kind of under your own name, the J. de Jong books. Is that correct? That at that time, was your writing speed?
Yeah.
You have recently thrown a cat among the sparrows in the South African writing community. I don't know if you realize this. Is that the saying? Cat among the sparrows?
Pigeons.
No, pigeons. Cat among some sort of common bird. By telling us that you're writing 50 books this year, one a week. And I have to tell you, you've undone us all. And we need to know, how is that possible? How on earth do you do that kind of output? And I'm particularly curious then what the ghostwriting, do they give you a plot? Is this 50 books a year including plotting them? And how are you standing upright and not crying?
Well, it has actually, the 50 books a year was last year. I think this year it's slightly less. It'll actually probably end up being about the same if I write my own books in between. And I did it as a challenge because the company that I work for is very keen on fast output, and literally the more books you can write for them, the happier they are. And so I decided I would see if it was possible, and it is possible, but it's very difficult, and it took me a very, very long time to build up to that speed. And I will say that doing that much writing does not leave you with much of a life at all. You don't have a life. And so for a year, I haven't really had a life, and the writing has been very all consuming, and it's been a case of focusing on it all day, every day, and not taking a day off. And I think one of the biggest musts when you want to write fast is to know what you're writing. And that is why for the ghostwriting, they do give outlines. Okay. And the outlines are fairly detailed. They don't always work, but obviously, as a writer, you've got the freedom to tweak the outline if it's not working, and to sort of adjust it and to make it so that it does work. And luckily I've had a lot of experience with that, and so it's a bit easier. But it is draining. And if you don't know where the story is going, I would say it is impossible to write that fast.
So possibly what you're telling us is if it's a story you are also bringing out of your own head at the same time, that speed we mustn't feel like we must write our own books at 50 a year. Please reassure me on this.
No, it does make it, I mean, I love writing. I really do. but it's draining to write at that speed.
It's 10,000 words a day.
It can make you feel that it's a chore more than a passion when it's, when you're tired. But I took up the challenge, and to my surprise, actually managed to do it.
And am I right? 10,000 words a day about?
Yeah, that's basically what it ends up doing on writing days. If it's 10,000 words a day, then by the end of the week you have a 50,000 word book. And if you know where you're going and you can type fast and you focus on the end goal of your writing, then I can do in an hour 2,000 words easily.
What does that day look like from when you wake up to when you go to bed?
Well, I wake up and I try first thing in the morning to just tweak my own admin chores and sort of see if there's anything urgent that I've got to do that day. And then as soon as I can, because mornings are the best time to write, and if you write in the morning, you're set up for the day. If you're trying to play catch up in the afternoon and the evening, and I'm very used to writing after dinner and I don't like it at all, I'm looking forward to a day when I don't have to, it becomes much harder to get that word count. So the more productive that I can be in the morning, the better. And I look at the outline of what I have to do, and I try to focus, and I try not to allow distractions in my life. And I try to make sure that I'm very confident and excited about what my writing goal is in the next hour or the next couple of hours. And then I just try to do it as fast as possible. And then take a break and give myself a target that I have to write this many words, and then I can finally have breakfast.
This food is still before breakfast. I
have very late breakfast. My breakfast is like at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So I do that, and it's different. It's also different when it's a job. Mm-hmm. And this is a job. And there's no such thing as deciding that you can't do it. It's a question of doing it because it is your job. And this book is my project, and I have to produce the finished item within a time frame that I agreed to and I chose. And so it is my job to make sure that it works. And it actually does give you, I think, more motivation to write. Because sometimes when it's a job and when you've got an outline, there are times when it just doesn't seem to be working, and that's very frustrating, and thinking a plot through is quite draining. But generally speaking, you have your path, you have your goal, and you have your motivation. And that means that you can sit down and write. When you're on your own and you've got a book in mind, you tend to have an awful lot more creative angst. And angst can slow you right down to the extent where you just don't write at all, or you decide what you've written is useless. Whereas when you have an outline and you know where you're going, you can adapt it on the way and end up in the right place. And then when you look back at the writing, even though maybe it's been difficult to write that day, you look back at it and you think, you know what? It's actually okay. This is good writing because it's been done. And the only bad writing really is the writing that doesn't get done.
And so when you are doing a ghostwriting project, that outline has been supplied to you. When you are writing one of your own pen names, and you're creating that from scratch, do you give yourself a similar kind of outline to work towards?
Yes, I really try to, and I find that the more I do that, the easier it is. Mm-hmm. I had a fabulous outline for Mount Up for Murder, and that I worked on one of the writing retreats in Barrydale, and it was just the most enormous fun, and the outline was very solid. And then I was so busy that it took me ages to write it, and I kept on thinking about my outline and looking forward to the time when I would actually be able to write my outline.
That's interesting. And working with an outline, because I think for people who are pantsers rather than plotters, that the fear of an outline is that it's going to stop you having creative fun. How much do you, both with the ghostwriting and your own writing, how much space is there for a character to suddenly appear, and maybe that character's so fun to write, you want a little bit more of them? You know, the magic that happens in the writing process. How much space is there for the magic?
There's all the space you want. There's loads of space for the magic. And I also used to be a complete pantser. I was not a plotter at all. And as a result, I often had to rewrite most of my books because the thing was just off at a completely wrong tangent. And it's definitely less time efficient. And I used to feel that if I wrote an outline, and actually it even happened, I would write an outline and I'd think, I've written the book. Yes. I've lost all interest in writing the book now because I've written the outline. It's boring now. So there is that aspect to it.
How did you get past that?
I think what made a difference is that when you're doing ghostwriting and the outlines are supplied, it gives you a slightly different mindset on it. And that actually helped me to realize how you can write a book, but even though there's an outline, you can still put so much creativity into the story. And really all the outline does is it gives you guidance and it keeps you on track and it prevents you from wasting time or going down a rabbit hole you can't come out of easily, which means you've got to trash 3 chapters of your book, which is kind of soul destroying.
Mm-hmm. And talk to us about the editing process, because you say you produce a manuscript in a week, either ghostwriting or your own work, and it then has to go off to be edited. And to me, getting those edits back and having to wrestle with them and so on, it can be weeks or months long process. When you send something off to be edited, is it in that kind of pristine state that it just needs a few edits and it can go? Do you get it back and have to work on those edits, or once it's off your plate, it's off your plate?
The editorial report does come back, and I work with a few editors and they all do things differently. Some of them just write a report and refer to different places in the text. Some of them will give you back the documents with comments and changes. But generally, I think that they have also been briefed that this mustn't be too time consuming, because the idea is that these books are produced fast. And so the edits are never sort of substantial that you would have to rewrite the entire book. And in fact, because I'm actually, I know this sounds like it's wrong, but I'm a very lazy writer. I hate to redo things and I want to do it right the first time. And so I try to take all of the editor's comments on board so that I don't make the same mistake again, because doing it twice is just exhausting. It's a real pain. Whereas doing it once the correct way and trying to think as you're writing it what your editor might say and do makes it quicker. And generally speaking, the editors that I've been lucky enough to work with are extremely good, and they're just so perceptive. And so the comments that they give are comments that if you keep them in mind, you can produce a better book the next time.
That's you as well, Gail, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, as a very lazy person, I have come to realize that laziness is a superpower. That actually lazy people do things fast and we do things right the first time because we cannot bear to do them twice. It's a superpower.
Yes.
Embrace your laziness. Everyone, yes. Embrace your laziness.
And it's a bad word to use, but it's the right word.
100%. I'm interested also in using a pen name, whether you're using it for the ghostwriting or whether you're using it, you're now doing a cozy mystery series that is written as Emma Park. Using a pen name, I'm always torn between, and part of my writing life has a pen name, but the freedom that the pen name gives you, that like if things don't go well, nobody knows it's you, versus that you don't get all the clapping and admiration for the beautiful work your pen name's doing. What are your feelings around that?
I deliberately wanted to choose pen names because obviously at some stage, I think in probably about another year's time, my ghostwriting contract will finally wrap up. And then I thought to myself, if I'm enjoying writing, I'd better make sure that I can write in a self-sustaining way so that I can get some income from my own books. And so I didn't want to confuse things, because Jassy Mackenzie is already out there as a writer quite a lot in a couple of different genres, which might already be a little confusing. And so I chose a couple of pen names so that I could write genre fiction and just have those pen names devoted to those particular type of books, which is apparently also a good thing to do from the Amazon algorithm perspective, because the algorithm likes it when people understand your book and buy books related to it instead of jumping around, which can totally confuse the algorithm, and then it doesn't know who to promote your books to. So for that reason, I thought I'm using pen names. I have also found, especially if time is limited, that it's often easier just to write using a pen name, because you don't get as many requests to do things. And that can save time. And it's lovely to get the request. It's really fun. It's amazing engaging with readers and doing talks and doing articles for people and all the other things that you get asked to do as a reader. But it does also take time. And at the moment, I don't really have that time to be able to do it. And I hate saying no. And so having your pen name just quietly on the side means that you don't get that.
And do you miss the glory? I mean, I don't know how else to put it, because there is a certain glory in, being invited to the literary festivals, being recognized by name, having someone go, "Oh, you wrote that book." Is there a sadness in the pen name at all?
So far, no. And I think it's because I've been really lucky that I have been to literary festivals and I have done talks and I have done articles for people, and it was absolutely amazing and so fun and incredible. But I'm happy not doing it now and just focusing more on writing and trying to get a few more books out there.
Jassy, there was a time when I was working in independent publishing and writing in genres and sort of doing not a book a week, but maybe a book a month at my absolute most productive.
That was a good year.
And every now and again, I'm tempted to go back to it. But I'm so aware that space, that genre, independently published space, is being swamped by generative AI, which is something that you've made very strong statements against. And you and Gail are both still competing in that space very successfully. But how real is that threat of just being completely swamped? Because 50 books a year is extraordinary, but we've just been hearing this week about authors who are producing 200 books a year. How much of a threat is it? Do you feel as though it is threatening your space?
It definitely, it's a huge worry. And I think anybody who isn't concerned about it probably doesn't understand the situation. But on the other hand, I find that readers in general do not like the fact that AI is writing books. There's a very strong feeling they don't want to pay for something that someone else hasn't produced themselves. And quite a lot of anger I've found from readers who realize that books have been written or even edited using AI, and even an obviously AI cover can make some people take a step back. So I think the whole, I'm no expert, and I'm sort of also just looking every day at things unfold and wondering, I wonder what is going to happen, where this is going to go. And yes, it is a crowded marketplace, but then again, one little piece of driftwood that I do cling to, hopefully, is that if these people are using AI to write their books, they are doing things so on the cheap that they are probably not going to have a good cover, and they're also not going to invest that much in marketing. And I think if you want to self-publish and create a following, you're going to have to invest wisely in marketing, and that means time and also obviously money. And all of that, I think, is the difference between someone who's just trying to make a quick buck by flooding the market with 200 books, or someone who is actually trying to invest in their career. So I kind of think of that with hope. I have also, and I don't know how true it is, that Amazon doesn't like the AI written books and the algorithm doesn't promote them.
Oh, interesting. I know they make you sign a declaration that this has not been generated by AI. So do they have a capacity to sort of pick that up and then suppress those books?
I don't know. All I can say is it's a rumor that someone said online and I read it. But you are asked in your publishing process if you use AI or not. I would love to know how many people lie. I'm fascinated to know if they lie, and if they do lie, if it gets picked up somehow.
I am convinced that a reader, having read an AI book, at the end of it, they might not realize it's AI, but they will realize it wasn't as satisfying. There will be an emptiness. Like when you see an AI picture, you kind of, something feels a bit off. You might not immediately go, oh, this is AI, but you go, okay. Would you agree with me? Do you think there is some magic the human brain brings?
Totally. That AI writing is just extremely mechanical, and it's very correct, and there's this relentless rhythm to it. And I completely agree that it just doesn't have the emotional punch and the excitement and the variation that a human written book has. And that ultimately, yes, you can probably get away with it, but if you're going to write it AI, you're going to have to get it very, very well edited.
And you're not going to build a series because people aren't going to keep buying it, is my view. Do you think that would be accurate?
Unless you get it extremely well edited and basically take out all the AI-ness.
Get a human to rewrite it.
And that's expensive. So.
And then you may as well have written it properly in the first place.
Then you may as well have written it properly, because it's not very, I don't think it's very motivational for an editor to have to sort of work their way through a text that is very obviously AI written and try to improve it. And I mean, if you're the writer and you're producing such an AI text, then you're not a writer anymore. You are just an editor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's like your role. You've briefed a machine to do something, and then you've now got to go through it and edit it. And I don't think that very many writers adore the editing process, as we've said. So you're taking a lot of the joy out of what's like the best part of your work.
I don't think real writers do this. I think people trying to make a quick buck and somehow thinking publishing. I mean, if you think publishing is the way to a quick buck, also you're delusional, but somehow think that publishing is the way to that quick buck. I don't think real writers do this. I
don't know anything about costs, but if you're going to get good or reasonable AI to do your writing, I don't know if it's free anymore. And I do think that there is a cost involved in whatever package you're going to be using. And the AI producers are obviously scrambling a bit, and they are desperate to try to make AI financially viable. And so ultimately you're going to be paying for that as well then.
Do you think that there is an ethical way to incorporate AI into the writing process? Because we've interviewed people who say that they use it as a kind of writing buddy. Like if they're stuck on a plot point, they'll feed the plot point into ChatGPT and say, how could I solve this? And then it'll give them 5 ideas and they pick the one that they like the most. Or are you just so repelled by the whole idea that you won't even consider it?
I don't do that just because I've never really thought of it or needed to. And I think if I were to want to bounce a plot idea off anyone, I'd rather do it off a person than off AI, because AI is not intelligent. And this is what people keep forgetting. It can seem that way because it has been structured with such a chatty writing style. But it is not giving you anything except what is in its database. And that can be researched elsewhere. And I do think it's very important for people to not humanize it because it is just an algorithm that has been trained on a large language model. And that's a lot of people blur the lines, and it is their buddy. And if it works for them, then that's great and good for them. But I also question whether the ideas they're getting, if they went for a walk or if they had a coffee with a friend, whether they actually couldn't come up with things that were even more original than what the AI can offer.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the different genres you write in and what you love about the different genres. You've written romance, you've written thriller, you're writing cozy mysteries at the moment, and you mentioned, and I got very excited, paranormal romance. Tell us a little bit, what do you like about each genre, and where does your heart lie?
I think what I'm writing at the moment for myself, which is cozy mystery and paranormal romance, I love both of those genres. I just adore them both. Paranormal romance is great because there are no rules, and because it's set in a setting that is not this world. You can imagine.
Explain it to us a little bit. Are we talking vampires? Are we talking?
Yeah, shifters, dragon shifters, a different world, slightly sort of medieval stroke magic incorporated into it. And one of the nicest things about writing in that world is that I don't have to remember geography, which I'm hopeless at. Whenever I write anything set in Earth, it is absolutely guaranteed I'm going to make a geographical error. So actually having a different world that you can just go into and just, as long as you vaguely remember that you said the city was to the south, it's all good. And I really enjoy romance. Is lovely to write, to write about sort of spark and chemistry and friction and that sort of mistrust turning into love is wonderful. It's just amazing. And so romance is something that I would never ever say no to writing a romance, no matter whether it was paranormal or set in current day. And
the listener can't see the smile on your face, that you can see how you feel about this.
And then cozy mysteries are also, they're so fun. And I so enjoyed your cat series. I just wished you would write more of them. They're just amazing. They were just really, to me, they were the gold standard in cozy mystery. And I have not read all of your cozy mysteries, but your first one I have read, and it's absolutely incredible. It's so unique that I'm not surprised that it became such a great bestseller, because you took the most amazing setting and you created a character that everybody absolutely loves.
Well, let me tell you the geography of that setting. As you said it, I was just thinking about the writing we're doing at the moment, because between Kate and I, we don't have a memory. And to keep the shops and the things in the right place, Kate's just put a church across the road from a hotel, and I'm sure that there can't be a church across the road from that hotel. I'm sure it is not possible in the village. The geography undoes us.
So you also have the same problem.
100%.
But hopefully, I think if people are just reading about the mention of a church, they won't worry too much about where it is.
They're always the super fans who've got the whole geography of the village in their mind and know that the cliff used to be on the east and now you put it on the west, and they'll call you out for it.
Yeah, and we can take this out. We also have a problem. Our Swedish translator picks up errors more, because when you're translating, you pick up errors that a normal editor, like, those things where you've given them 3 arms, they're holding a cup of coffee and they're patting the dog and they're holding a pen. And she'll be like, there are too many arms in this scene. And she picks up that kind of thing, like, and the book's published. You can't do anything about those 3 arms now. So
it's a bad time to pick it up.
So, Jassy, where are you planning for your writing career to go? You've said that your ghostwriting contract is going to wrap up in the next year or so. So you are positioning your series under your own pen names to take you into the future. Are there going to be more of them, or are you just going to work on developing the two?
I think so far just the two. The one other genre that I do quite like is psychological thrillers. And I haven't had a chance to think about that yet. And so if I do publish that, I might just end up doing it under my own name, because every pen name, you've got to make a new website and you've got to get a different BookBub account, and it all kind of becomes PT. So then I would probably use my own name. But for now, I've got my two pen names, and I'm just...
Please tell the listeners what they are.
Okay, my paranormal romance name is Rosa King, and my cozy mystery name is Emma Park. And my Emma Park books are, I have two series so far. Firstly, my equestrian cozy series, and secondly, my paranormal midlife cozy series. And it's quite interesting because my poor little Mount Up for Murder has got to have been the most delayed book that there ever has been, because I wrote the outline. I waited like literally a year before I finally wrote the outline. And then I published the book, but it didn't have any friends. So there was nothing in the series. And I was working on my paranormals because I wanted to bring those out as quickly as I could. And I then thought I should probably do my paranormal cozies next, just because I thought they might also need to get a foothold, and they seem to be quite popular at the moment. So I started writing those, and I'm currently busy on the third one, and they still need to be marketed. And this whole time, little Mount Up for Murder just sat quietly there, not doing anything. And it had one reader who would read like 2 Kindle Unlimited pages a month. And I'd see that appear on my little stats thing, and I think, oh, someone's reading Mount Up for Murder. And I had this happy feeling because I liked the book, and I couldn't wait to write more books for its series. But anyway, then something nice happened the other day when I wrote it, and when I wrote my first paranormal romance. I entered them both for a couple of competitions, and the other day I got notified that Mount Up for Murder actually won the Writer's Digest self-published ebook awards.
Oh, wow.
Well
it's
done.
won the thriller section, which I'm stunned by, because I really just entered it in the hope of getting somewhere, and it went and won. And so that's like my first win that I've ever had. And it comes with a little badge that you can put on the book, and I can use that for marketing. And it's only going to be announced in, I think, like July, August this year. So I'm just keeping quiet about it. And
You've just told the whole of South Africa.
All of whom listen to this podcast.
Yeah, and people who listen from other countries.
I'm not putting it in writing anywhere. I mean, I've been notified, but until it comes out, there's no point in me saying anything, because someone could turn around and say, oh, you're lying.
Yes.
There's nothing about this anywhere, which there isn't. There isn't until like July, August, when it's officially going to be in Writer's Digest that it's won. And so that gives me a chance to write a couple of sequels to it, and
a couple of July.
And it needs friends. Because then obviously when, by the time, and now I'm trying to promote it a little bit more, because by the time that win comes out, which I can then use for marketing, my book needs to have, more star reviews than it currently has. And it needs other books so that people, if they like the first one, will buy the series. So that's now, really what I'm going to focus on next.
I'm interested in how this book seems particularly close to your heart. The Mount Up for Murder, when you talk about it, your face changes, and the way you've spoken about it compared to your other writing, there's a difference. There's something about this series that's very close to your heart. Am I right?
Yes, it's because it's horsey.
Okay.
And horsey people love horsey books. And as a horsey person, I've always wanted to write, a thriller set in the English countryside, which Mount Up for Murder is. And it was like a bucket list item to write that book.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to write more of the series. And I have this whole sort of plan in place for the character who thinks that she's going to fall in love with someone, but actually he's the wrong person for her, and she ends up falling in love with someone else. And so that's going to take place over however many books that it needs to. And also her writing journey, which is incredibly exciting because she's starting off as a nervous rider who's coming back from riding after a long break and a fall. And over books, she is going to develop a relationship with the horse that she's been lucky enough to ride. And then eventually she will hopefully end up owning that horse.
Jassy, I've noticed that you do a lot of writing courses and writing retreats. I think mostly with the All About Writing people. What are you getting from that? Where does the value lie for you in that?
I found it's incredibly valuable. It's so nice to be away on a sort of holiday that isn't really a holiday, but it's work and it's an isolated environment and it's a chance to improve your skills. And that's really what I was focusing on for the last few times that I've been on these retreats. I've generally worked with Josie. I worked with Richard the last time to plot out a few books, which was awesome. But what I did when I worked with Josie is I went through just the basics of writing, and we looked at all the mistakes you can make, all the ways to tighten up writing, all the ways to make it better, what to do, what not to do, dialogue basics, sentence structure, the mistakes you can make and the pitfalls that you so easily fall into. And I just find that is so incredibly valuable because it's something that any writer can get very careless about. And you can actually start to fall into a trap of making repetitive mistakes during your writing. And when you sit with someone and you get coached and you get reminded of the pure basics, you go back, and every time after those sessions, I went back and I then wrote. I found my writing was sharper and it was better. I was able to be quicker because I was thinking ahead. I was thinking past my mistakes. I was remembering the pointers I'd been told, and that all led to better first draft. And that's what we lazy writers really want. Better first draft.
I feel like you should be offering the course, not taking the course. I'm fascinated that someone as skilled and experienced as you is still getting value out of a course like this.
You know, I think I actually learned the value of basics because for a long time I was in the hairdressing industry as media. I was a hairdressing media person, and I worked for the hairdressing industry trade magazine. And I went and I covered a lot of courses and a lot of seminars that were held either by people here in the industry or by international stars. And what was very, very interesting is that you always saw the same faces at those seminars, and they were always the most successful hairdressers. And all of them, without fail, had the attitude that you cannot ever attend a seminar and not learn something valuable.
Wow.
That's such a great attitude. I love that.
And that really taught me. You have to be incredibly humble and never, ever think you know it all, because you will always pick up something that you need to know when you are given education. So you must always take it.
Lovely. And Jassy, what have you been reading or listening to or watching lately that you've been enjoying?
Okay, so I actually, let me find the picture, because I looked up all the books from South African authors that I have read or bought in the last couple of years. And so I thought I will just mention them all because we need to give South African writers a shout out. And there actually are a lot more that I've bought, but just Helen Moffat, Charlotte. I really enjoyed that.
That's lovely.
Tom Eaton, An Act of Murder.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was fabulous. Katie Gale, An English Garden Murder.
Obviously.
What a brilliant book. Paige, Nick, Book People. I really, really enjoyed that. And Fiona Snyckers, The Hidden. I just loved that book. What a book. And then also it's a sort of a how-to book by Richard Bainan called Waterlines, which is a lovely book basically describing life aboard the waters in English canals. And then also every sort of little vignette chapter has some writing advice. Oh. And it was so much fun to read and to dip into. And I really enjoyed that as well. So those are just 5 of the books that I wanted to mention as being written by South African or sort of ex-South African authors. And obviously there are a lot more. And I've been reading a lot for research in different genres. And my Kindle is very crowded, but I must say, reading for pleasure, I haven't had a lot of time. And so those that I've mentioned stand out.
I was about to say, when are you reading with all the writing? When do you fit it in?
No, I haven't had that much time. I would usually read a lot more than I'm reading now.
Well, Jassy, we hope that everyone checks out Paranormal series by Rosa King and the Cozy Mystery series by Emma Park. And looks to those names in the future, because it sounds like there are going to be a lot more books populating the series there. Thank you so much for chatting to us. This has been absolutely fascinating and we've been riveted.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jassy.
Gail, we've been wanting to have Jassy on the podcast ever since we found out about her new ghostwriting venture and her new pen names venture. And this did not disappoint.
Yeah, that 50 books a year thing, since then I have got to figure out what this is about. And today we had the opportunity.
So what did you take from it?
So I have taken something that I have taken so much that I'm quite an old fashioned person, and I have a diary that I write what I have to do every day. I haven't gone electronic in that. And I also write down things that I find particularly motivating, and I will be writing this in my diary, and I'm putting on my reading glasses to read it. She said the only bad writing is the writing that doesn't get done.
Yes.
And really, that is just such an important aspect of keeping writing. You know, that is what it's all about, actually. You have to get it out. You have to keep going. You have to get the shitty first draft, although it sounds like she gets a non-shitty first draft, but still, you have to, the only time you're failing is when you're not writing.
Yes.
And I think that for me is just, it's a thought I've had, but I haven't been able to express it so well. I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to keep coming back to it.
Absolutely.
What will you keep coming back to?
You know, I couldn't choose, so I'm actually going to talk about 2 things. The first one was the difference between a cliffhanger and a dramatic moment. And I think I've been conflating the 2 in my mind. And it actually is important to separate them, because some great dramatic climactic moment is not the same thing. In fact, it can end up satisfying a reader so that they then put the book down and go to sleep.
Yes.
Whereas a cliffhanger just keeps that question mark. I think you refer to it as it contains a question.
Yes.
And the urge to have that answered is what makes the reader turn the page and start the next chapter.
And I must tell you, it resonated for me because an editor once told me, talking about the cliffhanger endings, that it doesn't have to be a very good cliffhanger. You can immediately clear it up in the first sentence of the next chapter, but you've got them into the next chapter then. Right. And at the time I was told that I was reading 1,000 Splendid Suns, which, while being a great literary work, is actually written according to all the rules of a thriller, strangely enough. It's got short chapters that end in cliffhangers. And one of the chapters ended with a character held another character up with a gun. And you were like, oh my God, they're going to die. And you turn the page and it's a toy gun.
Okay.
And that stayed with me, that your cliffhanger can have a completely stupid resolution, but it's got you over the page. It's very, very interesting point.
That was fascinating. And also just the tip of remaining teachable as a writer, being willing to be coached and to know that you don't know it all, and that there is room for improvement, and even just the value of being reminded of old lessons that you might have got a bit complacent about or forgotten about. The fact that Jassy, with all her experience, keeps going on writing courses and writing retreats, that was fascinating.
I think this is, I also wrote that down in my notes, and I think it is a problem I have, that I forget to be open to the learning, except that the podcast has, I think, opened me up again. We learn every podcast we do.
Yes.
We get a little hint, we get reminded about things. But I think it is something that me and many writers are bad at remembering, that group work, that learning, all of that is still valuable, even when you've done it 10 times before.
So important to remember.
Should we go on a course, Fiona?
I think we should.
A retreat.
A retreat in Venice.
Yes. Are those Venice retreats still happening?
I think they are. It's a date. So if any of you have read Jassy Mackenzie's books, either under her own name or one of her pen names, Rosa King or Emma Park, we'd love to hear what you think about that. If you have done a writing retreat and got benefit from it, we want to hear about it. We're on all social media across the board, and we'd love to hear from you.
You've been listening to another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.